Highway construction has been taking over the valley with multiple freeways being worked on at the same time. When will we finally get to enjoy the expanded roads? Arizona Department of Transportation gives us the answers. Plus, there are some big changes that you need to be aware of before tax season rolls around again. Find out what they are and if they could benefit you. It's all that and more this evening on Broomhead. Welcome, I'm Mike Broomhead. Before we jump into today's show, let's take a look at some of the top stories from this past week. The story that has continued to be a major topic around the world is the passing of Pope Francis. In 2015, Pope Francis would visit the northeastern United States, making a stop in Washington, D.C. to address Congress. In today's Political Minute, News Nation chief Washington correspondent and host of The Hill, Blake Berman, takes a look back.
One trip to the United States and a memorable one at that. I'm Blake Berman, host of The Hill on News Nation. In September 2015, Pope Francis visited the U.S., where he traveled to New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Pope Francis became the first pope to address a joint session of Congress.
Here, together with the representatives, I would like to take this opportunity to dialogue with the many thousands of men and women who strive each day to do a honest day's work.
The House Speaker John Boehner so moved by that moment that he announced the following day that he'd soon resign his seat. Boehner later saying it was the happiest day in the 25 years that he was in the Capitol. I'm Blake Berman, and this is the News Nation Political Minute.
The election of a new pope will begin 15 to 20 days after the passing of Pope Francis. Of the 250 cardinals, 120 will be selected to vote in the conclave. All of the cardinals selected to vote have to be under the age of 80. It is presumed that Pope Francis selected around 80% of the cardinals who will choose the new pope.
Industry is making money. I'm keeping us sick.
Health and Human Services and the Food and Drug Administration are working with companies to try to eliminate the 8 food dyes. Now, of these companies, PepsiCo, General Mills, Kellogg are the companies that are affected. But how it will affect you? Imagine products like Flaming Hot Cheetos not looking the same. What about Mountain Dew and its color? What about Skittles not being the rainbow colors anymore? And what if you ate a bowl of Fruit Loops and the Fruit Loops looked more like Cheerios but tasted the same? How will people respond to this? The idea behind it is getting these companies to use less chemicals that are toxic, especially to small children. I think people are coming around to the idea that this is good for young people and it's good, healthier habits for people as well. If we can do this and the companies can do it voluntarily, that means we don't have to do it by legislation. And for most people, they think that's the ideal situation to just have a healthier America. A group of Maryland parents are challenging their school board over the right to opt their children out of reading classroom books involving LGBTQ themes. The U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments Tuesday. Washington correspondent Raquel Martin reports.
This case centers around a group of parents, including Catholic and Muslim families, opposed to LGBTQ-themed reading material inside their children's public school books. Montgomery County removed an option allowing parents to opt out of these lessons in 2023.
Why do we want accommodation?
Dueling rallies, part LGBTQ supporters.
It is measurable good.
Part religious liberty advocates.
I'm not an activist. I'm a parent.
Took over the steps of the Supreme Court as parents of Montgomery County School District fought in court to keep LGBTQ books out of their kids' hands at school.
This is not a matter of banning curriculum. It is about protecting our right as parents to decide what our children learn and when.
The group from the diverse suburb of D.C. argued their public school district violated their religious beliefs by getting rid of the option to opt out of LGBTQ lessons.
Instead of respecting our role as parents, the board is imposing lessons on gender transition, sexual attraction, and other topics.
But inside the Supreme Court, The school district made the case exposure to new ideas is not indoctrination.
Every day in public elementary school classrooms across the country, children are taught ideas that conflict with their family's religious beliefs. But learning about them is not a legally cognizable burden on free exercise.
They say the opt-out option grew burdensome as more families used it for reasons unrelated to religion. While the liberal justices appeared sympathetic to the district, the conservative majority seemed open to the parents' point of view.
You're not seeking to prohibit instruction in the classroom. You're just seeking not to be forced to participate in that instruction.
That's correct.
The Trump administration, which is currently leading the charge to remove DEI policy in schools, argued on behalf of parents' rights in court. The White House press secretary was asked about the case today and says she hopes the Supreme Court does the right thing.
The Supreme Court is supposed to rule on the case by the end of June. Here's the issue, though. 4 to 6-year-old kids, their age shouldn't really matter. In the end, do parents have control over what their children are learning, especially when it comes to issues of morality? This is not anti-LGBTQ. This is about when a parent talks to their child about morality and sexuality. If it involves pronouns, and many of these books that are being read to the children are about pronouns and how they change. Is that appropriate for a 4 to 6-year-old? You can decide for your child, but that should be a parental decision. If you don't believe your child's ready for that, it doesn't matter if it's a school teacher, a neighbor down the street, or a relative, your child should not be exposed to that if you don't think they're ready. And they should be ready when you say they're ready. I think that's what the court will decide. Coming up, we get an update from ADOT on freeway construction. When will it end, and when will you see relief? Next on Broomhead. It's important to recognize and thank the fine Arizona men and women who are serving in our country's military. One of the ways we like to do that is through a segment we call From Arizona for America, and it's brought to you by my good friends at Sanderson Ford. So join me in honoring Aviation Boatswain's Mate, Airman Melissa Lewis from Santan Valley, Arizona, assigned to the WASP-class amphibious assault ship USS Iwo Jima in the Atlantic Ocean. For a list of more of our friends and neighbors that are from Arizona for America, just go to the Broomhead tab at cw7az.com. All right, freeway construction, it's a lot like aerobics. It feels really good when it's over. To talk about where and when is the spokesperson for ADOT, Doug Nitzel. Thanks for doing this.
You bet, Mike.
Let's start with this project. We're on the 101 looking south on the 101 at about Princess Drive. This construction's been going on for quite a while. When's the anticipated result when this is done, and when's completion?
Well, as you said, it'll be nice when it's done. We appreciate you coming out to see the project. This has been going on since January of 24. Now we're starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Shea Boulevard up to Princess Drive, so it's 4.5 miles where we've been adding the extra lane in each direction. We've been doing the closures along the ramps because we're reconstructing the ramps to make them fit into the wider freeway. So it's been going along very well. We're looking at completion early in 26.
When you look at the challenges, first thing that comes to mind is the open, or you got Barrett-Jackson, which is in proximity. Does that factor into how you do things, or do they just have to deal with it because you're in the middle of construction?
It definitely factors into things, and we've had construction up in this area, whether it was already widening Loop 101 on over to Princess Drive from I-17. Now we're doing this project. We worked very closely with the city of Scottsdale so that when the Phoenix Open was taking place, or the events were taking place at Westworld, we're able to make sure we adjust our construction schedules, our closures that are taking place, so that we can keep the traffic moving.
We've looked at the massive growth and expansion. We've had the freeway installation since I've been here of both 202s, the 101, the 303, but that is new freeway. How do you prioritize the expansion of our existing freeways?
Yeah, this is all working very closely with the Regional Transportation Agency for the Phoenix area. That is the Maricopa Association of Governments. They really set the plan in motion. They decide what is going to be next on the schedule. And so it really, of course, you would understand, it comes down to when the funding is available. And so that's what happens. You start to lay out when the funding is anticipated to be here, what projects can we do? And so the example was, hey, the I-10 Broadway curb project, that funding was available. It took a while to get there, but it was available and we could push ahead with that project.
That was an amazing project. Is it complete? How close to completion are you on that?
We're within a couple of months of having everything done, but the majority of all the big things, that's completed already. So the interchange, linking I-10 with State Route 143, those new overhead ramps making all the difference in the world.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, for travel in that area, but the extra lanes along I-10, whether it is the primary lanes to the left, or now we have even the sections of the local lanes in for traffic to use, so that if you're westbound and you want to go to Sky Harbor Airport, you want to use State Route 143, you'll go to those left lanes, but it really cuts down on the merging of traffic and really creates safer conditions.
Let's address the expansion of the 17, because there's some confusion with people. I mean, we're Anthem Way up to Sunset Point, but flex lanes. Can you explain how those are going to work and how they'll be safe?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're adding the third lanes in each direction between Anthem Way and Black Canyon City. Those are going to be done pretty soon. And we're going to have people using those lanes. The flex lane system, it's its own 2-lane facility. It's going to be just really primarily next to the southbound side of I-17, but those 2 lanes are going to be available for use in either direction depending on the greatest demand. And that would be on a Friday afternoon, northbound traffic's going to be able to use those 2 extra lanes, creating 4 lanes of capacity. The same will be true on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday holiday. The southbound side will get those flex lanes, and that's again going to add the capacity, be able to move more traffic through that area.
And the safety precautions are in place, so it's going to be safe to travel. That's been the one thing people are concerned about.
I understand completely, and that is that we've taken all sorts of precautions. There are going to be gate systems in place. There are going to be checks that take place, but also some other safety systems to even stop a wrong-way vehicle. So we're looking forward to actually showing folks how that's going to work, and we're looking for the flex lanes to open toward the end of the year.
Well, these projects are incredible going around the valley. I know there's a lot more coming in the future with our immense growth, and we appreciate the update. We look forward to this being done, and I don't think people really get to see behind the scenes, so thanks for your time.
Mike, anytime. We do appreciate it too. Thanks.
Hope you enjoyed the update, and I can't wait till it's all done. Have you ever taken time to search for yourself on the internet? How about a search that goes beyond the first page? Well, if you haven't, now might be the time. Rich DeMuro from KTLA shows us how simple it can be to remove personal information from the internet.
One quick search and you'll find it.
There are so many ways that people can access your personal information.
Your name, address, phone number, age, and much more, all available online and to anyone who looks.
Every new piece of information that is shared about you online can become something that nefarious actors can use to try to steal your identity.
Here are some ways to fight back, starting with Google. If you see a search result with your personal info, tap the 3 dots next to the URL and hit Remove Result. Fill out the form, and if approved, the link should disappear within days. For ongoing protection, sign up for Google's free Results About You service. It alerts you when your personal contact info shows up in search results. You can request to remove it with a click. Just remember, this only hides the link in Google search. The actual web page stays online. To get the source removed, you'll have to contact that site directly.
The number one factor driving people to adopt a data removal service was just to enhance their personal privacy in general.
Services like Incogni, PrivacyBee, and others promise to help by automating the opt-out process, but they can cost up to $20 a month. A Consumer Reports study found many data deletion services don't have a great success rate. 2 that remove the most: Easy Opt-outs and Optory. They cost $20 to $40 for the year. But the most effective way might be to do it yourself. Start with the top search results for your name and visit those sites directly to submit an opt-out request. Delete Me has a great directory of free opt-out guides. with step-by-step instructions for just about every data broker out there.
Even though it might feel hopeless that there's just so much information about all of us on the internet, it doesn't mean you should just throw up your hands and not do anything about it.
Removing your info is kind of like a game of whack-a-mole. You remove one listing and another pops up. But the more you take down, the harder you make it for people to misuse your data. Just be mindful where you share personal information moving forward.
Coming up, tax season might be over, but before you forget about your taxes, there are a couple of things that you should be preparing before the next tax day rolls around. Find out what they are next. Here's a look at some upcoming events that should be on your radar. First up, Billy Idol is coming to town on the It's a Nice Day to Tour again, happening on Wednesday, April 30th at Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater. Tickets are available on livenation.com. Then, it's the Uncorked Wine Festival with events happening from May 1st through May 30th at the Verde Canyon Railroad Depot. Tickets are still available for most of the days. Welcome back. People getting their taxes done finally, but looking forward to 2025. And again, with our tax expert, the IRS Media Relations person, Jeannie Rohr. Thanks again for doing this.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
A couple of questions about the 2025 tax year looking forward. Let's start with IRA contributions or retirement contributions. Have they changed from 2024?
Yeah, so there are changes. Actually, the IRA contribution limit for 2025 is the one thing that hasn't changed.
Okay.
It's at $7,000 and $8,000 for individuals 50 and older. So no change on that particular one for 2025. But I would say that now is a really good time to make changes and to prepare. And a good way to do that is getting on our website, irs.gov, and using the tax withholding estimator. It's a great tool. It can help taxpayers determine if they need to make an additional payment to avoid an unexpected tax bill when filing their return. It basically takes taxpayers' situation, their individual situation, into account and helps them make the best plan for them. It's a great tool.
Is the 401k amount we can put into a 401k tax deferred, has that gone up?
You know, I'll have to check on that particular one, Mike. I don't have
That's okay.
that information, but I can get back to you on
Okay,
that.
that'd be great. The 1099K, side hustles, side gigs, what do people need to know?
Yeah, those numbers will change, Mike. Taxpayers who received more than $2,500 in payments for goods and services through online marketplace or payment apps in 2025, they will expect to receive a 1099K in January of 2026, and a copy of this form will be sent to the IRS as well. So that has changed because this year it was $5,000, so it's gone down to $2,500.
So for people that are selling things online or collecting payments for services rendered, they're going to have to keep closer tabs.
That's right. You have to keep close tabs and expect that 1099K, and they will come in January of that year for filing.
That's great information because I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by that, and it can lead to penalties if they're not keeping up with those payments.
That's right. That's right. And Mike, I would say that a great resource is the IRS has a Get Ready page. It's on irs.gov, but it's a wonderful tool that offers practical tips and resources to help taxpayers prepare, and it highlights key updates and important steps for taxpayers to consider when filing, so to make the filing a little bit easier in 2026, and the page is regularly updated throughout the year. So another good tool.
Ms. Rohr, we always appreciate the expertise and the help, and look forward to talking to you again.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate your time.
We'll be right back. Thank you to all the guests who joined us on today's show. If you missed any of these interviews or want to rewatch any of them, head over to cw7az.com/Broomhead. Now, every Sunday here on Broomhead, we ask a new poll question we'd like you to participate in. This week, the question is, do you think parents should be able to opt their children out of reading classroom books with the LGBTQ themes? All you have to do is head over to cw7az.com/Broomhead to respond to the poll question. Next week, former Channel 3 anchor Brandon Lee stops by to the studio to talk about his latest endeavors, including how he's bringing art into Arizona prisons. Thanks for joining us this week on Broomhead.